Now we have our zones all clipped out of the way, we can start to focus on the back of the head first, where Stephen's going to be working with horizontal sections, working from the center out towards the corner of the section and creating a box-like shape, working with not maximum elevation or not 90 degrees, but somewhere in between 90 and maximum elevation. This will create lots of softness within the internal shape, and we can see that Stephen's working with a square cutting line horizontally, but he's working with the point of the scissor to again increase the softness. Section number 2 is going to be combed up in towards where section number 1 previously was, and again cut to that guideline that he's cut through. Once section number 2 has been cut, Stephen will now bring that third and final section from the nape up into section number 1 and cut through that as well. What you'll notice is that each and every section that he's cutting has further and further to travel in towards the guideline that he's cutting the hair to, meaning it's becoming longer and longer towards the bottom of the nape. Technically, he's creating a vertically triangular shape from shortest point on section 1 to longest point on section 3, so it's shorter at the top and longer at the bottom, but in complete control of the horizontal shape whilst he's creating this look. Once side number 1 has been completed, Stephen's now going to move on to side number 2, where he wants to replicate the same steps as side number 1. The only difference on this side is that now the hair is going to be slightly pulling towards his body rather than slightly away from him. This is to maintain that round shape on the horizontal axes. Section number 1 is going to be taken from the center as the profile guide as it was from side number 1. When cutting a round shape, working on the outside of the finger is definitely advised, as it gives you much more control in creating the round shape, where you're able to control the elevation, the over direction, and also the tension and the cutting line with much more control than if you were to work on the inside of the finger when creating a round shape. Let's now jump straight into side number 2 and replicate what we've just done on side number 1, where again taking that first horizontal panel 1 finger's depth inside of that zone, elevating out 90 degrees from the head shape and cutting a square line horizontally. Everything then will get over directed and cut in towards that first original section on that first zone, except that little disconnection through the side bone area where Stephen's keeping the extended length. Once the back zone has been finished, Stephen's now fully focusing on that frontal zone and the top of the apex, where he wants to bring in that shape from the back all the way forward into the front zone. He's going to be using that guide as a reference visually and then cutting a round shape vertically coming forward into the front of the face. The round shape works very beautifully in lots of areas on these types of haircuts because it really hugs the head shape, gives you a very weightless finish, giving you lots of movement and texture and able to style it in lots of different ways for versatility. Although the cut itself is going to be very precise and methodical, the way that Stephen's cutting it is through lots of slicing and pointing, meaning that the haircut's going to be having a very lived in feel and a very textured and soft finish, which is exactly how he wants this look to be. This will leave Stephen now to start personalizing the haircut and really starting to create some creative flair within the texture and the movement. All of the internal shape has now been cut and we now have the lengths that we want to see through the edges. Everything that he wants to do now is going to be very personal to what he wants to create. You can see that he's picked up the texturizing scissors for now, where he wants to work with some downward slicing action, where we're working from the mid-length of the hair and just picking up some small areas of the hair through the curvature of the head where there is weight and the disconnection that's currently sitting, and he's going to soften that zone up very visually just by picking up the hair through his finger and working with the slicing technique with the thinning scissor. Once we have it in that dry state, Stephen's now amplifying the look and texture and volume with a little bit more cream running through the hands into the dry hair, which will add a little bit more definition to the finished look, as you can see. So he's just personalizing the styling, which is looking really cool, and then he's going to make any small adjustments with a pair of scissors or a razor through the edges just to finish off the final look. As you can see, we have a really cool mid-length personalized look for this client, where we have that extended length running through the back, the shorter cider panels, and the disconnected top area where we have those shorter, rounder shapes with the pivot sections for this really cool face framing on trend look. Thanks for watching this cutting tutorial, guys. We hope that you enjoyed it, and we'll see you on the next Academy Collection video.